Internets! Hello, you lovelies. It is time for This Week in Comics. Thank you so much for bearing with me last week while I was wicked sick. That said, last week's comics I will make a video out of. There will be a This Past Week in Comics that I'm going to drop later in the week, and I'm just going to review my favorite comics from that week, which is the week of the 10th. This video, however, is going to be reviewing comics from the week of the 17th, this past Wednesday, as well as this week's comic news, as well as previewing the comics that drop this Wednesday, April 24th. Now, if you're new to this channel, I saw a lot of you join in with all my Deadpool coverage. I'm going to be doing comic book-centric stuff, like the actual comics themselves, a lot Monday through Wednesday. Any breaking movie news, obviously, that's going to jump in here as well. Monday through Wednesday, generally comic. Thursday and Friday on the weekend, generally movies. But if something big breaks, I'm obviously going to break that rule and just jump in with breaking news. That being said, this is a channel about comic books and movies and comic book movies, and I feel like comics themselves don't get the love that the movies do, so I'm trying to bring awareness to the actual comics and give you all some approachable comic books and some approachable runs that are currently in comic book shops so you can love this world as much as I do. Now, without further ado, let's get into This Week in Comics, reviewing my top 9 favorite comics from the week of April 17th. First up, we've got Avengers Twilight number 5. Now, this book isn't for everyone. A lot of people haven't been enjoying it as much as I did, but Chip Zdarsky is one of my favorite writers. I am loving this tale. Its art by Daniel Acuna is absolutely staggering. This book is beautiful, and I love a lot of what it has to say. This is a very interesting, almost Elseworlds, but I think it might be continuity if it's in the future. Either way, I love this take on the Avengers. I love this Captain America. I love this Miss Marvel and everything she's become, and I'm fascinated by this Tony Stark and his son dynamic in the future. It's very political. It's a very charged book, and I like that in comic books, especially the character like Captain America. Next up, we've got Batman Superman World's Finest, number 26. This is art by Dan Mora. It is some of the most beautiful art out there. It is written by Mark Waid. This is a very approachable run in comic books. If you like Batman or Superman or both, highly recommend checking out this run. The entire thing has been fantastic. It has gone to very interesting places. It is a very different take on these characters than you might expect, but it still feels very true to who they are. But again, very approachable, very user-friendly, and this issue is wrapping up a run nicely, so I'd say 27 or so is a great place to jump on. Next up, we've got Fall of the House of X number 4. I am loving this Fall from the House of X storyline. This has been some of the most badass X-Men in years. This is detailing the end of Krakoa. This whole era is ending, and it's giving us some big, big moments that really represent what the X-Men are all about. If you're enjoying X-Men 97, I wouldn't jump on here because this is frankly the end of a lot of continuity, but if you've read any of Krakoa, if you've tackled any of the last 5 years of X-Men, this Fall from the House of X saga has been absolutely incredible. Definitely recommend this particular issue. Next up, we've got Helen of Windhorn number 2. Now, this first issue sold out so quickly because this is Tom King and Bilks Evely, who did the incredible Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow story, one of my favorite DC comics of all time, one of my favorite runs of all time, and it's what's getting adapted into the DCU. That is our Supergirl movie we're getting. This duo is incredible. I cannot speak higher of how insane this world is. It is a fantasy world where a girl, basically an orphan who has distant family members she goes to live with, she goes from absolute abject nothing to this insane, rich, lush world and feels just as alien in that world, but that world turns out to be pretty alien. It's this giant fantasy world. Her ancestors have dealt with the fantastical, like, wood elves and mythical creatures, and in all of that, we find out this is actually a book written by her that a person is telling us about in our present day, and this is all in the past. It sounds dense. It's not. It's really wonderful. It's a true piece of fantasy, and it's only on issue 2. Highly recommend this book. There's also a Miles Morales book out this week, number 19. Didn't quite make my top 9. It would have been number 10. Just want to give it some love. Fantastic book. Next up, we've got Nightwing number 113. This book is bananas. This is the 300th issue of Nightwing if you look at legacy numbering, and it is worthy. It is a giant spectacle. It is so much action. It is so much payoff. It is also setting up the return of Heartless, but it is the essence of who Nightwing is. If you like the character of Nightwing, then this run by Tom Taylor has been hitting on so many cylinders, at least for me, and the art by Bruno Redondo is some of the best I've seen in comics in years. This issue is a big showcase of some of the different artists as well as his particular artwork that really sings these characters. Check out issue 113 of Nightwing. It's actually a decent jumping on point considering how much continuity is involved. Alright, this one's a weird one. It is Roxxon Presents Thor number 1. Now, this is a number 1, but I put it here especially to give a disclaimer. It doesn't quite read like a number 1. It's actually tying into the current storyline and current arc, which is only on like issue 8, so it's not that confusing. And you could just read this one, but it'll leave you wanting more. And basically it's the idea that Thor is a piece of corporate art. And that is true. Disney owns Thor, and the comic, the regular Immortal Thor run, has been dealing with what the God of Stories is, dealing with what Thor is, dealing with the nature of corporate art, and this issue is imagining Thor brought to you by Roxxon, which is your giant conglomerate, your Apple, your Disney, your Amazon, whomever, and commodifying him to basically be something to sell things, and something that speaks in not truth, and speaks in just shilling, and it is a fascinating take. And then the God of Mischief basically is telling truths because he's the enemy of this version of Thor. It's really fun, it's very sardonic, it's very ironic, it's a good time, but it's a tricky jumping on point, so I'd recommend reading Immortal Thor and then this one, but definitely check out this one at some point. Something Epic number 9. I've been singing this book's praises since issue 1. This book is absolutely insane. It is written, illustrated, story by everything by one man, Simone. I cannot pronounce his last name, I'm going to put it right here. But man, this book is staggering. It's about the idea of imagination, the idea of being a creature, an entity, a being that can transcend imagination and talk to the creatures that we can see when we're young and when we imagine, and how we stifle those imaginations, and very few people can keep them. And these people in the story, we have a new protagonist as of issue 7. They basically can navigate this world, and that is so important to keep our world going. But I love that it's got multiple art styles. It's got the old school cartoon style meets painting, meets Greek myths, and all these characters are important in their own way. Go back to issue 1, or at least 7, but read this book. Something Epic is one of my favorite new titles in years. Next up, we've got Spectacular Spider-Man number 2. Now, this is why Miles Morales' issue didn't make it this week, because that'd be 2 Mileses, and it's in the top 10. I want to keep one Spider-Man in my top 9, and that is Spectacular Spider-Man number 2. So only the second issue. Get on this run. Art by Humberto Ramos. It is absolutely the fun, kinetic, wisecracking Spider-Man that I know, and I know you love. It is Miles and Peter together in a team book, and there is so much love to the details. It is truly a friendly neighborhood book. There is dedication to Kenny from the Ultimate Run, who I haven't seen him forever. He went by Kong back in the day. But there's so much detail to this coffee shop and how much Peter wants his order right, and the details of community and what it's like to have a community, but then also villain hijinks and Jackal and fights and all the stuff you want, Vermin, all the stuff you want in a Spider-Man book. I've missed friendly neighborhood books. I've missed books being actually funny in the world of Spider-Man. All of the spin-off books, like Ultimate and stuff, have been great, but the main title just hasn't hooked me. This main title is hooking me. Check out Spectacular Spider-Man before it's too deep in its run. Highly recommend it. Next up, we've got Ultimate Black Panther number 3. I am loving this Ultimate line. Ultimate's always been one of my favorites. When it started in the 2000s, it was a great jumping on point for new readers, as is this current run. This issue of Ultimate Black Panther deals with Killmonger, deals with Storm, deals with what it means to be a leader nowadays, deals with that conflict that, if you know Black Panther at all, of protecting Wakanda, but also worrying about the rest of the world and your technology not helping them, and how much you want to expose that, how much you need to protect the world versus Wakanda, and it does it in a really, really new, captivating way. The art is fantastic, and it's a great place if you've never read Black Panther to only be a few issues in and really get a sense of Killmonger. He is fascinating. I love his psyche. I really like how T'Challa is portrayed here. It's a lot more approachable than some of the denser runs of Black Panther, and it gives us a new take on Storm, and she is, as ever, a goddess. This is a very, very approachable Black Panther run, and I can't say that about every run. Check out this one for sure. And the last of my favorite books of the week is going to be Wonder Woman number 8, also by Tom King. This book is so good, and it's going to piss off so many people. It is a book about the dangers of nostalgia. It is a book about the dangers of us perceiving that 50s and 60s era of women in the kitchen as the way things should be. It is a book about the perception of strength. It is about the myths and lies we tell ourselves in its own way. It is about control. It is about subjugation. It is so many things, and it is Wonder Woman. I love this character, and I love getting to see her show her strength in new ways. I love getting to see a new villain. I love the new mythologies they're building out of this run. The first arc was her versus government in so many ways. The second arc continues that, but it's also a bit more personal and a bit more intense. The supporting cast of Wonder Woman is growing out beautifully. This run is just exceptional, and it really makes you look at expectations and about stereotypes and how we perceive each other in a great way. The writing is wonderful. This book is so good. Read this run of Wonder Woman if you love the character especially. That is going to do it. Those are my favorite 9 books from the week of April 17th. Let's get into the news from this week in comic books. Big news in adaptations is obviously this guy getting a new trailer along with Wolverine. If you haven't seen my breakdown of that, check it out here. There is so much stuff in that trailer, but again, this is about the comic books themselves, and the big news this week in the comic books was we are getting an Avengers versus Aliens book. Now, not only is this insane and exciting, and I'd love to see the Brood come back in a big way, but seeing a Xenomorph fight the Avengers is so exciting, and this is a duo on this book that is worthy of this book. We're getting Jonathan Hickman and Asad Rabis on an Avengers versus Aliens book. Now, Asad Rabis did the incredible God Butcher run, but this duo did the new Secret Wars run. Now, Jonathan Hickman is one of the best writers working. He is largely responsible for so much of the modern mythology in Marvel, and for him to wield this insane Fox collaboration, because once Disney bought Fox, that meant they owned Alien, they owned Predator, they owned Fight Club. Fight Club, that makes Tyler Durden a Disney prince, but it also makes the Xenomorph a Disney princess, a Disney queen, in fact. This queen right here fighting the Avengers is so exciting, so I cannot wait to see the incredible line work of Asad Rabis drawing aliens, but also fighting the Avengers. This is like a dream movie, and it's going to be a summer event comic. They just announced it this week. I'm so excited for this book. It looks bananas, and from the industry, folks that have read it, I've heard it's absolutely insane. A lot of inside industry folk are saying this is the book of the summer, so check out this when it drops. I will keep you guys posted on it once I know more and when I'm reading it. In more comic book news, and as a lover of the Ultimate line at Marvel, I just talked about it with Ultimate Black Panther, but the Ultimate line is one of my favorite things in comics. One, because it brings in some of the best creators out there, but two, because it's a great jumping on point, and DC is doing their own version of the Ultimate line, and they're letting Scott Snyder shepherd this beast. Now, Scott Snyder brought us The Court of Owls. He's one of the big writers over at DC, and he's very consistent. He is shepherding the Absolute line. Now, the Absolute line is not going to be like New 52, where it changes continuity, but it's in continuity. It's going to be like the Ultimate line. It's going to live outside of continuity. It's going to exist out here so that regular DC continuity can go on, and they can really play with new versions of these characters in the Absolute line. I think this is a very smart move on DC's part. You don't have to worry about any continuity. You can just jump on these books with issue 1. There'll be nothing to read beforehand, and might give us some new exciting ideas and origins for books, just like the Ultimate line did. So the Absolute line launches soon. Scott Snyder, I'll keep you guys posted as soon as we hear anything more. I'm excited to see what artists get announced. I'm excited to see which first books come out, which characters they're leaning into. The Absolute line sounds, pun intended, absolutely genius, and I cannot wait to see what comes from DC with it. And two quick bits of news that came out of CinemaCon. We are getting an R-rated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles adaptation of The Last Ronin. The Last Ronin is one of the best-selling and arguably best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle titles in years. It deals with 3 of the turtles dying, and basically Raphael becoming a hardened samurai warrior. Like the most quippy and fun-loving turtle becomes this hardened badass, and it's just a really dark dystopian tale. It's fantastic. It's just real dark, and it's going to be an R-rated movie, so I think this is a very bold swing. I also think it shows that comic audiences are maturing. The Turtles came out in the 80s. Like, that first movie, the people that were watching it are grown, so it's good to see an R-rated adaptation. Excited to see where this comes, and I'm excited to see what comes from more R-rated adaptations like Deadpool and Turtles and things like it. And lastly, we finally got our Shadow announced in Sonic 3. Knuckles drops on Paramount Plus soon. Obviously, Idris Elba is the fantastic Knuckles. If you haven't seen those Sonic movies, do yourself a favor. Sonic 1 and 2 are fantastic. Sonic 3 will feature Keanu Reeves as Shadow, locking in the cast. I'm so excited about this. There was rumors of Hayden Christensen, but to be honest, like, Darkness itself, the voice of Keanu. Shadow, that's great. I'm so excited. Let's see how Sonic 3 does compared to 2, because Sonic 2 is up there as with Gran Turismo as my favorite comic book movies of all time. Alright, that's going to do it for the comic news and my comic reviews. Let's get into the comic previews of what new comic books dropped this Wednesday, April 24th. And for the week of April 24th, I'm going to speed run these because I've taken too long every time. But from each publisher, I'm looking at from Boom Studios, Man's Best #2. I'm just a sucker for anthropomorphized animals and the stories and adventures they go on. Man's Best #1 was delightful. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World #14. This book has been insane. Jason Aaron started this book a couple years back. It's a dystopian love story. It is raunchy, it is depraved, it is sad, it is joyous, it is about what it means to be human, and it's a really good time. I'm actually really appreciating. There was a little dry spot in the middle, but it's gotten me back, and I'm very excited about it. Rare Flowers #5. Rare Flowers sells out all the time, and for good reason. Rare Flowers is about what it means to be alive. It's about the flavor of life and experience. It's written like poetry, and one of the characters, one of the leads, is a cannibal. And so it's a really interesting, imagine Anthony Bourdain's journey around the world experiencing the wonders of life, but if a character like that was a cannibal and he takes on someone under his wing to be a chef. It's a very interesting book, and somehow it's so captivating every time. The art's really whimsical and dark simultaneously. And finally, Something is Killing the Children #36. I cannot speak more highly about this book. It is what you love about myth, what you love about fantasy and fairy tales, but dark and depraved. Imagine if kids could see, and only kids could see, these horrible monsters killing everyone, and then you have to train them to take them out themselves. There's a League of Assassins that has different sects. This whole world that Tynan has built, James Tynan IV, the writer in this book, has built all these different houses and mythology, like Harry Potter-esque, but all of it's so scary and intense and wonderful. It's like Are You Afraid of the Dark for adults, but with monsters and assassins. It's very good. Over from DC, we've got Batman the Brave and the Bold number 12, an anthology series with some highs and lows, but overall a lot of highs. Great way to jump into Batman, because usually these books are by different writers and artists, and they're only telling kind of one-off one-shots. You can really find new teammates, you can really find new teams here of artists and writers you like, and their takes on Batman. Detective Comics number 1084, this has been a harrowing tale of Batman at the end of Gotham, and a Gotham that's overwrought, and the art has been amazing. It's been 2 different art styles. It's been a really fun run over Detective Comics. The Flash number 8, this is probably one of my favorite runs of Flash ever. It is very existential. It deals with the Speed Force almost as a sentience. It deals with otherworldly concepts. It deals with what Speed Force is in mythology and what the different speedsters are in relation to that world. It deals with concepts like quantum theory, just casually. This Flash book is dense, but it's fantastic. Green Arrow number 11, also a very good book. I think this book is something that has some moments where you think it's drying up, but then the next issue pulls you back in. There's some really fun family dynamic, and it doesn't quite have me like Flash does, but it's kept me more engrossed than a lot of recent Green Arrow runs. Harley Quinn number 39, there was in this book, admittedly, a patch where it went full Spider-Verse that I wasn't as involved. I didn't care as much about multiple Harley Quinns, but now that we're back to the core of Harley, her relationship with Poison Ivy, her trying to figure out what it means to be a hero when that definition changes all the time, what it means to be mad. There's a lot of really fun psychology in this Harley Quinn book. Number 39, I'm excited to check out and see where it lands. The Penguin number 9, man, the Penguin is so good. It's Gotham as a character. It's Penguin as an equal to Batman. It's Penguin coming back to being one of the great bads in Gotham, and why he's able to manipulate Batman and how he's able to be such a force as just a man. And it's really interesting psychology of what other rogues see him as and how he uses that to his advantage, how his perception as weak is his greatest strength, and how he manipulates everyone in Gotham. I love, this is up there with Joker books, that this makes him that powerful of a character. Highly recommend The Penguin. Not enough people are talking about it. Power Girl number 8, she's dealing with Lobo's daughter. I love this book just because Power Girl's not a character I know very well, and this one's been a very casual, fun read consistently. From Image, we've got Duke number 5. Loving this G.I. Joe tale. Loving everything going on with building out these characters that I casually know from the 80s and 90s cartoons. From when I was a kid, I knew these characters. Haven't followed them that much since, and so hearing certain names and having this new continuity and this being this action-packed it feels like you're playing with toys. It feels like you dumped out a toy box and with characters you know in a fun new setting. Feral number 2, this is from the team behind Stray Dogs, but now with cats. I loved Stray Dogs. Stray Dogs was like Silence of the Lambs, but with dogs. Feral is similarly making animals our leads, but in scary but fun ways. The Six Fingers number 3, this is the David Fincher-esque, almost horror comic. It's a detective thriller book. It's very graphic, it's very intense, but it's so captivating. I'm not even a true crime guy, but this is an excellent fictionalized true crime comic. And World Tree is back. World Tree number 9. I talk about James Tynan a lot. I think this is one of his masterpieces. This is about the other side of the internet, the dark web, but in kind of a deeper way. It's an internet that can corrupt us in this world, and it's so interesting because that's not something I really believe, but it's something that is a great horror concept, and the characters are so good that you're invested in this otherworldly, supernatural version of the internet that is all corrupting in a metaphorical way that ours is, but in a more direct horror way. Really like this take on like hacking and that culture, and it feels like a 90s hacker world, but today with very interesting characters. And finally from Marvel, we've got Amazing Spider-Man 48. All my qualms with it. When it's good, it's great. Let's see what happens when Ben Reilly comes back again in Amazing Spider-Man. Avengers number 13. I'm really liking this Avengers run. It feels like it's worthy of the Avengers name. The scope is huge. We're dealing with the Sentinels and Orcus and all the X-Men Fallout stuff, but over the Avengers side, what it's like for Tony Stark to feel responsible, what it's like to deal with those ramifications, but for the whole team. Blade number 10. I love this run of Blade, top to bottom, beginning to end. Blade doesn't have that many comics. Blade doesn't get that many runs. They get canceled quick. So if you like Blade, check out this run of Blade. It's very approachable. It's very him. It feels like Wesley Snipes. And if this is what the Mahershala one's going to be like, then yes, check out this Blade. Daredevil number 8, I am iffy on this run, but this last 2 issues have really got me. First arc wasn't as much for me. These last 2, I'm really loving the inner conflict of Matt Murdock, what it means to be in his new position of not power, and what it means to be adjusting to not really having as much of his own inner continuity as he had, and what Hell's Kitchen means to him now. Marvel Gods is a really interesting book. It expands on the more existential questions in Marvel. It really adjusts the power structure. It deals with Doctor Strange as like the bottom baseline and up. And these characters, a lot of them are new, but they're captivating, so it makes the greater world around them more interesting, making characters that I hadn't really been invested in much more investable. Jackpot and Black Cat number 2. I really like Jed McKay. I don't love Mary Jane having powers because I feel like that's just, it's unnecessary. Mary Jane's interesting enough without powers, but sure, I'll keep trying. Predator number 3, I really like the world of Predator in the comic books. This horror book has been very interesting. I feel actually stalked, and in this continuity, they've added basically the brother of Arnold Schwarzenegger into the mix, so if you love that first Predator, this is like a sequel to it in a really fun way using his brother. It's a surprisingly great book. Rise of the Powers of 10. Again, Krakoa is falling, and as it does, I'm really loving these concluding books. This ties directly into the fall of the House of X. Those 2 books are sister books, just like Powers of 10, and all of that in the beginning of the Hickman run, so if you've been reading Krakoa, you have to check this one out. Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, I love this duo. I consider them the children of Magneto, even if continuity doesn't, but I really love them together as brother and sister. I love their dynamic. I love basically exploring Scarlet Witch's witchcraft and her power set along with Quicksilver. They both seem like these Omega beings, but they're not, and what it's like to see that dynamic and what it's like in the current Marvel Universe as we bring the X-Men more to the forefront. Spider-Punk Arms Race, Cody Ziegler writing Spider-Punk's always exciting, always fun, and it's Spider-Punk. So if you liked Across the Spider-Verse, check out the Spider-Punk book. We got a new Darth Maul book over in Star Wars. We got a new Jango Fett book over in Star Wars. Superior Spider-Man number 6, if you like Dan Slott, if you like his Superior Spider-Man stuff, this is absolutely for you. It's back. Ultimate Spider-Man number 4, I cannot sing the praises of Ultimate Spider-Man more. We've already had a great Goblin interaction. We've already had 2 good Shocker interactions. We've got maybe the best Bullseye since, I mean, it's been like 10 years since I've really loved Bullseye. This Bullseye is spectacular. That's not true. Some of those Zdarsky stuff. Either way, a great new take on Bullseye and the most captivating support system I've ever seen Spider-Man have since the first Ultimate Spider-Man run. Every supporting character is great. Every villain is great. His new takes on his origin are fascinating. This Ultimate Spider-Man, this is the best Spider-Man has been in so long. It's only on issue 4. If you read one book this week, if you check out one thing, get on Ultimate Spider-Man. Issue 4 drops this week. Wolverine number 48, dealing with the Sabretooth War. Very graphic, very bloody, very intense book. Basically, every year on Wolverine's birthday, Sabretooth just hurts Wolverine as much as possible and hurts the people around him as much as possible. This time, he's gathered Sabretooths from all over the multiverse to rip apart every one of Wolverine's family. It gets intense. Wolverine and the Madripoor Knights number 3, great little approachable spin-off book. And X-Men Forever number 2. Those are the books I'm going to be reading this week, the week of April 24th from all the publishers I tend to check out. What are you going to be reading this week? I am very excited to get back into things. I appreciate, again, you guys bearing with me while I was wicked sick last week. Tune in later this week, probably a day or 2. I'll have this past week in comics, little asterisk, where I go over my favorite 9 comics from the week of April 10th. So this was the week of April 17th. I will definitely recommend you some books from the 10th because I don't want those books to go unloved because I got sick. That being said, let me know in the comments below what else you want to see. Let me know what news I might have missed. Let me know what else you want to see from this channel. And again, if you're new, thanks to the Deadpool trailer, thank you for joining. Check out some comic books, maybe some of the ones I just recommended. So much love to all of you. I will see you soon. Share, like, subscribe, hit all those buttons. Appreciate you.